Hello and welcome viewers. Today we will study the last lesson by Alphonse Daudet from the English core textbook Flamingo. I am Dr. Sayyida Aman Hashmi, PGT of English. Let's start today's journey of learning. Before we try to understand the chapter, the last lesson, let's first attempt to understand the targeted learning outcomes. Dear students, after attending this session, you will be able to comprehend the story well, understand and appreciate the genre of war literature, understand the emotive meaning of the language used, and cultivate a sense of independent and rational thinking. Dear viewers, now that we have understood the learning objectives of the last lesson, let's begin it. First thing first, this is how modern Europe looks to you. Look at these two countries today, France and Germany, with their relative geographical borders. Have you seen the map of Europe during 1870-71? The red shaded region was the North German Confederation of the Kingdom of Prussia. The small white shaded area that you see was the Kingdom of France. Those days, Prussia, today's modern Germany, comprised countries like Germany, Poland, Austria, Denmark, Belgium, Czech Republic, Russia and Lithuania. Prussia was a significant economic and military power in Europe during the 18th, 19th and first decade of 20th century. The last lesson backgrounds the famous Franco-Prussian War fought between France and Prussia during 1870-71. Dear students, the map you see now is from the NCERT textbook of class 10th history. The chapter title, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. If you see the labels on the map, you will understand the territories of Alsace and Lorraine. The chapter, the last lesson, is about the annexed territory of Alsace, where orders had been dispatched from Berlin. Do you know what was the order? It was that officially the next day onwards, German would be taught in the districts of Alsace and Lorraine. Moreover, no French teaching will happen in the annexed French districts. Hence, the story's title, The Last Lesson, is justified because, as per the orders, the people residing in the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine would study French for one last time that day. Dear viewers, now it's a trivia time for you. Do you know why the Franco-Prussian War took place? For the answer, you must brush up on your history topic from class 10th, Unification of Germany. Do you know this man? If you know him, you know it all. He is Otto von Bismarck, the man of blood and iron, and the architect of German unification. Bismarck unified Germany into a single confederation by annexing territories from different parts of Europe. The last nail in the coffin was the Franco-Prussian War, which happened in 1870-71. In this war, Prussia annexed the territories of Alsace and Lorraine, and thereby Bismarck achieved his aim of German unification. Now, after the historical background of the Franco-Prussian War, we are all set to go with the chapter. But meanwhile, one more brainstorming trivia for you. Are you ready? Here it goes. Why do you think Bismarck only annexed the territories of Alsace and Lorraine and not the whole France? Although he could do so with his strength. Any idea? Okay, dear learners, the answer to this will be provided later in the lesson. As for now, we are ready to understand the last lesson. Let us learn about the author. The last lesson is authored by Alphonse Daudet, who was born in May 13, 1840 in Nîmes, France, and died on December 16, 1897 in Paris. He was a French short story writer and novelist. In the last lesson, Daudet successfully captured the sentiments of rural French people. One surprising piece of information for you. Do you know? Like T.S. Eliot in England, Daudet supported monarchical rule in France, and the idea of the French Republic was never acceptable to him. Now, introduction of chapter, the last lesson, is here for you. Dear learners, as already discussed, the Franco-Prussian War, which took place in 1870-71, is the background of this chapter, where Germany annexed the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine. The orders have been issued from Berlin that the next day onwards, only German would be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine, the annexed French districts. There was sadness in the air as the people of Alsace and Lorraine regret the loss of their mother tongue, French language. Dear learners, at the moment we will learn about the characters in the story. There are two major characters. The first major character is Franz. Franz is the protagonist and narrator of the story. He represents the carefree, innocent, vulnerable child during the oppressive Bismarck and Prussian regimes. His character unfolds like many Bollywood heroes in films. It could be rated as Kafka's metamorphosis, a graphical transformation from beginning to end as he realizes the actual value of his language and culture. He mourns the loss of the opportunity to learn further. In literary language, we call it a round character, where the character presents a variety of shades of his personality. The second major character is Mr. M. Hamel. M. Hamel is a dedicated French teacher who has served the village for 40 years. He symbolizes the French resistance against the Prussian annexation and their desire to retain their language and culture. M. Hamel's character is a testament to the power of education in shaping an individual's identity and preserving their heritage. His last words in the chapter, "Vive la France," leave the readers in tears. Now, let us discuss some minor characters. The first minor character is the blacksmith watcher. With his apprentice, he makes a singular appearance in the opening scenes outside the bulletin board. The second minor character is the old Hauser with his three-cornered hat and a French primer in the classroom. The other minor characters are the old mayor, the postmaster, and several other villagers sitting at the back seats in the classroom. All these minor characters are seen in the classroom attending the last French lesson from M. Hamel, expressing gratitude, regret, and loss. Moreover, there is a mention of Prussian soldiers who appeared in background drilling, symbolizing Prussian conquest and oppression of French territories with no other significance to serve in the story. After learning about the major and minor characters, let's examine the underlying critical themes from the examination point of view. There are many themes discussed in the chapter like linguistic chauvinism, language, culture and identity, loss and regret, language as a cultural anchor, language as a mean of passive resistance, the impact of war upon learning and education, the role of teachers in shaping young minds, and language and patriotism. Dear learners, once the chapter's textual discussion is over, all the key themes will be discussed in detail in the coming sessions. The text begins in the following way. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. Dear viewers, here we come to know that like English grammar, French has participles and there are specific rules for it. Unfortunately, France hadn't learnt those rules. Hence, the expression in great dread of would mean France was over the more afraid or worried about M. Hamel's scolding for not learning the rules of participles. Let's continue. It was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. Dear viewers, we observe here that France is attracted to nature. So we can say that France is a naturalist who loves being with nature. Also, the Prussian soldiers drilling in the background is a symbol of Prussian conquest and oppression. Let's continue with the text. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher, who was there with his apprentice, reading the bulletin, called after me. Don't go so fast, Bob. You will get to your school in plenty of time. I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hamel's little garden all out of breath. Dear viewers, here we realize that some bad news has reached from Berlin. Yet once again, it was displayed on the bulletin board. Let's continue with the text again. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But now it was all so still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you." Dear viewers, we see two new words, bustle and commotion. Usually the word bustle is paired with hustle, something like the hustle and bustle. It means to move in a busy, noisy, excited or quick manner. The second word is commotion, which means great noise or confusion or excitement. We also have an expression in unison, which means in correspondence or together. In the context of the text, it would mean children repeating the lesson together with their teacher. Dear viewers, we will stop our chapter over here. The remaining chapter will be covered in the upcoming sessions. But before you go, here is a quick recapitulation of what we studied and learned today. So today we began with the lesson, the last lesson from the textbook Flamingo. It's written by Alphonse Daudet, a French story writer. The lesson is set amidst the backdrop of the Franco-Prussian War, which happened in 1870-71. Prussia was a great economic and political power during the 18th, 19th and early years of the 20th century. Otto von Bismarck, the man of blood and iron, was the Prussian ruler who took charge of German unification and the Franco-Prussian War. The major characters in the story are Franz, a young student, and M. Hamel, the teacher who had dedicated 40 years of his service in teaching French to the French people of Alsace. The story is a beautiful first-person narrative from Franz's point of view. The story unfolds with Franz unwilling going to school as he had not learned the rules of French. Now is in great dread of scolding from M. Hamel. He crosses the bulletin board outside the town hall and sees a crowd gathered. He doesn't stop but wonders what new bad news it might be now. As he reaches school, he realizes that there isn't great bustle or commotion, which usually happens on school days. We learnt the meaning of the following: bustle, which means to move in a busy, noisy, excited and a quick manner. The second word that we learnt was commotion, which means great noise or confusion or excitement. We also learnt a couple of expressions. The first one was in great dread of, which contextually means Franz was over the more afraid or worried about M. Hamel's scolding for not learning the rules of participles. The second expression was in unison. In the context of the text, It means children repeating the lesson together with their teacher. Dear viewers, let us now summarize what we have learned today. We learned the historical background of the Franco-Prussian War, which took place in 1870-71, and its impact upon learning of French in France. We also learnt the building of a nation state, unified Germany under Bismarck. In the chapter, we learnt what a first-person narrative looks like. We are introduced to the major characters Franz and Hamel, and also some minor characters. We learned that according to the text, Franz is a careless and academically disinterested boy who loves to spend time with nature. The bad news from the bulletin board of the town hall is the figurative death knell of a language and culture. Franz, on reaching school, realizes that it appears to be a Sunday morning school, unlike the normal day with bustle and commotion. And finally, we learn the usage of words like bustle and commotion along with the contextual meaning of expressions like in great dread of and in unison. Dear viewers, before we close today's session, kindly have a look at some assignments. The first assignment is, which picture option best describes the word commotion? I believe you have reached the right answer. Our second assignment is, how would you react if you were in great dread of something? I'm sure that you could easily find out. Our third assignment is, rearrange the following words to make a proper sentence. There was a lot of hustle and bustle. As I reached the market, I observed that. Great! The last assignment for today's session is, if Bismarck was known as a man of blood and iron, what was Sardar Patel known as? Find it out on your own. So, that's enough for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great learning experience. Thank you.